And welcome back to GladrapChannel's commentary of the ANZAC Super Series right here at the ABA Stadium, brought to you in association with Boxing New Zealand and Boxing Queensland. We have 4 more fights this evening, all of them international bouts, New Zealand versus Australia. Next up, we will have, coming into the blue corner from New Zealand, Burdett-Clark, and he will face off against the tough Queensland representative, Spenser. Pardon making his way into the blue corner. Joining us on the commentary team, Isaac Savage, GladrapChannel's main man, and Patrick Mailata, just short of his professional debut on the Shane Cameron counter-punch card. And Patrick, as this bout gets underway, the difference between amateur and professional is quite pronounced. As punches scored with the scoring part of the glove, body shots seem to count for a lot less, and that can account for some confusion with judging decisions at times. What are you seeing tonight? What do you think the judges are scoring well?
I think they're scoring on the dominant, who's dominating the fight, and who's putting the pressure on more like.
All right, we're underway now. Burdett-Clark in the red, fighting out of Canterbury. Queenslander, Spenser. These guys are straight into their work, 3 by 3 minute rounds. No one really landed anything clean yet. Just trying to find the rhythm and the timing, Isaac.
Spenser too, he's no slouch. He's coming out of Impact Boxing, Sunshine Coast, Queensland champ and a Golden Glove champ. Take nothing away from Canterbury. I've seen him fight here up in Auckland a few times now. Certainly aggressive, certainly tidy, but both these boys are just, just as I said there, they'll start leaping into action, Mike.
Well, Burdett-Clark through the straight shots, but he slipped and landed a nice clean left hook on the ear. And it's a reminder, be careful, threw that left hook a little wide.
Mike was saying earlier, sometimes the pace of the fight it has to be a little bit more explosive with the amateurs because it's not like a pro fight where it can be judged differently. What are your thoughts on the pace that these guys are starting off at this rate?
Oh, look, it's a sprint. It's not a marathon. You don't have 12 rounds to do your work. You've got to get them out of there. The scoring's a little bit different. Power isn't scored as much as clean shots. So, thus the pace is accelerated a lot more. You cannot afford to get down around early, and we're still seeing both boys just struggling to find their range. They're falling a few inches short with each shot. As the sweat starts to roll down the shoulders and they start to warm up, they will get a little bit closer and the radar will start to lock in.
You were talking earlier, Pat, styles make fights, and once again we've got a bit of a similar stylistic matchup. Both these guys are quite technical, waiting ready to pounce with every shot. We haven't got two different styles here.
Yeah, again, like Mike says, I think they're just trying to figure out their rhythm and figure each other out, and they've only got a space of 1 round really to do their work before they have to go pick the pace up in the last 2.
Both of them fairly tentative at this point. They're throwing single shots and maintaining their range, trying to find his mark with that double jab. Burdett-Clark, he hasn't found it for the most part in this round. Again, falling short with the right hand. Making him miss.
That was a very good hook from
Patrick. Just spotted something there, Patrick.
That was a really good hook from the New Zealand boy. That was a very well planned hook.
We've got some very good eyes here from our Commonwealth Games medalist. Won that medal, of course, coming out of training in the English setup. And relative to New Zealand standards, Patrick, how do you find the English setup? How did you find that when you were over there? And what adaptations have you made to your game as a consequence of being around that environment?
Oh, mate, let me just say it was an amazing environment to be around. These guys are trained professionals. They live and breathe boxing. And just to be in that for a short space of time and pick up the knowledge that they have and apply that to my own game it's an opportunity to never miss. I'd love to go back actually. I'd love to do it all over again.
And of course, Joe Goodall, who you fought on several occasions, he's turned pro. I think he's got 3 under the belt now. And that's a potential matchup a little bit further down the track.
Oh, for sure. Definitely, that's something to look forward. You know, Joe and I are very entertainers, and when the time is right, we'll put on a good show.
Right, we're underway in our second round of 3. Sam Burdett-Clark coming out of the red corner. Spenser Pardon, the Australian, coming out of the blue corner. Hard to pick that first round. Very similar, a chess match going on. Both fighters trying to find range. Burdett-Clark just looks a little bit wider on the inside. This throws his punches more wide. He could do with making them a little more compact. Pardon perhaps a little more accurate when he throws, but not a lot separating them.
I was just noticing there, Mike. I mean, you're completely right. The way the Cantabrian's throwing those shots, so Spencer's just got a bit more of a cleaner style. You know, he's got that high guard, that jab's coming out nice and quick. Just as I say that, though, you know, the aggression can sometimes come through from Sam, and he is landing the odd shot like you've just commentated on earlier, Pat.
Yeah, he's landing like the 1 or 2 clean shots, but the Aussie boys seems to be dominating.
Yeah, I think the Aussie boy's just a little bit cleaner. He's marginally sharper in the head on the cards. Just making Burdett-Clark, the Kiwi boy, miss, although that's a nice set of work as he traps him on the ropes, upstairs, downstairs. Now Pardon coming back, landed a left hook, but the Kiwi got the better, although he had a right uppercut for his troubles. And another good left hook from the Australian.
Good spotting, and the action's certainly starting to turn up. Like, once one guy lands a hit, the other goes for it, and it was both boys were actually exchanging and landing right on the button.
It's just, I think, that Spenser Pardon is a little cleaner with his work under pressure. He started to throw that uppercut now. He's noticing that Burdett-Clark is bobbing into the centre line, and there you see him throwing it. Needs to string on a left hook after it.
Interesting to see too, a bit of blood coming out of the nose there of the Aussie. You know, even though the Aussie is landing some of these clean shots, the aggression from Sam is starting to take its damage.
Well, blood nose is fairly frequent though, and in any form of boxing, it tends to get a bit more attention from the referees. I'm sure he's had bigger cuts shaving.
Good call. And then you see too in the amateur ranks, Mike and Pat, if there is a heavy hit, a bit of blood, there is a bit more care around the damage taken in the amateur ranks, isn't there?
Nice head movement there from Burdett-Clark. He went to the body. He needs another uppercut though, and he's got a little bit of that red ink on his temple. The Australians making that uppercut work for him. He's going to it a bit too frequently. He needs to construct his shots, but Burdett-Clark hasn't picked up on it, and he's being hit with it. And Patrick, he's got a couple of versions of the uppercut as well. One of them tight on the inside, the other one a longer shot.
That was a good ending to that fight.
Right on the bell, Burdett-Clark will take that one into the cards. It's a very, very tough round to pick. Burdett-Clark has been the aggressor for the most part. Spenser Pardon landing the shots on the inside more cleanly when he's been under pressure. Both boys look as if they've got plenty of gas as we head into the corner there. It's Spenser Pardon, the man you can see on your screen.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm loving the aggression there from the Cantabrian. Yep, the Aussie's clean. He's landing those shots. But, you know, as a fight enthusiast fan, you've got to love it when a guy comes firing like Sam there in the red corner. And as we go into round 3, it's going to be interesting to see if they both keep up this pace.
I don't think they've got any choice but to keep up the pace. The rounds are relatively close. They are marginally separated. For mine, Pardon may be ahead on the cards, but you got 3 judges from 3 different angles. Referee there just getting a little bit of treatment on the tiny little mouse underneath the right eye of Pardon. And they're straight into pouring with that jab. Good work from Pardon, dropping it down to the chest, and often when you're missing the head, Patrick, it's the jab to the chest is a good place to go. You can't move the body.
Exactly. I mean, and I feel like that's where the success is. You aim for the chest, you never miss the head.
And a lot of fighters, of course, they bob down to dip under punches, and so if you miss the chest, often the head just bobs straight into that shot. Pardon now looking sharp early, very accurate with his work. He's been consistent and very accurate with what he's thrown throughout the fight. Another little turning left hook, catching Burdett-Clark on the way in.
Liking how Sam's starting to slip, parry off some of those punches as well. He's starting to see some of the jabs come through from Spenser, and saying that you can't mess with the accuracy there of Spenser, but Sam coming through then again.
Nice little body shot there to the floating ribs, drops the right hand down to the body. Now he's using the rangefinder, the left hand. Keeps the Australian backed up against the ropes. The Aussie doesn't want to be there, so he's dropping the shoulder and trying to circle out. Chopping shots, but those are being taken on the gloves. He's got good first phase head movement, Sam Burdett-Clark. It's when he's attacking, he seems to be vulnerable, particularly the second phase there. Pardon missing with a couple of uppercuts. Good work again, head-wise from Burdett-Clark. The Kiwi from Canterbury in the red and white singlet. Eats a grazing left hook. There's that uppercut again from Pardon. A lot of good defensive work from these guys when they are working close. They're being pretty tight. Good head movement. Shoulder work there, changing of angles. Seconds are ticking away into the final minute of the third and final round.
It's been a high pace this fight, isn't it?
Neither of them particularly heavy punches, but a lot of work rate in there.
And Sam's certainly coming out a bit more of the aggressor in these later rounds as well, and it'll be interesting to see what the judges are seeing in this fight, because Sam's certainly starting to take the fight to the Aussie here.
I think Sam is starting to do good work in the third round. He looks to have that on the cards. Of course, still very close. I think he probably lost the second, and the first one was very, very close indeed. So this bout is hanging in the balance. Just 10 seconds to go there. We just heard the clacker. Whoever lands this last shot could be pretty critical. Another right hand there from Burdett-Clark.
Wow, what a fight.
High work rate. Patrick Mailata clapping his hands ringside in commentary. Very good technical bout. Both fighters showing a good set of boxing skills, good punch selection, good technical proficiency. Of course, that's what we want to see at the amateur level. We want to see the skills of boxing displayed.
One of those fights too where you don't envy the judge's decision in this one, do you, Mike? You really had to be concentrating on this one to judge it.
Well, I can't really pick it, but let's see which direction we go in. Well, it was the aggression of Sam Burdett-Clark. He threw a lot more punches. Spenser Pardon was more accurate, but he needed to up the number of what he was throwing. He needed to up his output. But that's one back for the Kiwis. Just 3 bouts to go this evening. Don't forget our main event, David Nika versus Brandon Reese. That Trans-Tasman clash.